Hi, this is George with another midweek pick me up. And I'm coming today. We're going to talk about the 23rd Psalm as we continue talking about some of my favorite scriptures. And this morning I had the opportunity to speak over at the Southern Children's Home with some of the kids. We talked about their favorite music and some of my favorite music and such like. And we talked about what do you have on your Pandora or what do you have on your playlist. They had some groups, obviously teenagers, some of the groups I'd never heard of, some of the artists I'd never heard of before. I have on mine, I have Stevie Ray Vaughan, I have Leonard Skinner, I have Charlie Daniels, and I have Walter Brennan. And we were talking about how powerful music is. That sometimes music can affect the way we feel. It can make us feel joyful. It can lead us into exuberance in some way. It can depress us a little bit. And music can soothe us and comfort us. And music can do all of those things and how powerful music is. And I shared with them that this morning I was listening to Walter Brennan as he's saying, one of these days, I'm going to climb that mountain. I'm going to walk up there among those clouds where where the cotton's tall and the corn's a growing and there ain't no fields to plow. I love that. The song reaches to me because one of these days I'm going to climb that mountain. One of these days I'm looking forward to heaven. And so we shared that, and then I showed them, I said, this songbook of the Jews is for the same type of use as our music is today. And so we talked about the beginning of this 23rd Psalm of all the Psalms because oftentimes today it's been relegated to funerals. We don't talk about it very much other than we use it at a funeral. I was told years ago when, as a young preacher, when I was doing the very first funeral that I ever spoke at and I was nervous, I talked to an older preacher and he said, make sure you pray and you mention everything in your prayer and read the 23rd Psalm because that gives people comfort. Okay, I did that. Everybody said it was a great job. I don't know. But I think sometimes we've forgotten that this hymn, this song, means so much more. It starts off with these words, the Lord is my shepherd. And I have to say, that's right. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. That's all it needs. That's enough for everything else. I shall not be in want. I don't have to need anything else. I've got everything I need if the Lord is my shepherd. And that's the way it starts off. It says he makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. Green pastures means no matter what I want, no matter what I need, it's taken care of. I can sleep in them. There's so much abundance of blessings that I can just go to sleep in the middle of it and wake up and it's still there. There's plenty. There's not ever going to be not enough. The blessings of God are going to continue to overflow beyond my wildest expectations and imaginations, exceedingly abundantly, more than all I can ask or imagine. That's the way it's going to be. And he leads me beside the still waters. Still waters are deep. Sheep don't swim well. The fast waters that run over the brook, you see it and you say, hey, that's shallow, it's fast, I can wade through that. But you see water that's really, really still and it doesn't look like it's moving, you don't know how deep that is. You've got no idea. It can be very dangerous. What it says is when we come to those times, not that God tells us to walk over there by the water, but that he walks with us when we get to the difficult times, when we get to the challenges. When there's danger there, he's right there with us, even though we may not realize it all the time. We can have the comfort of knowing that he's with us. Then we get to this, he restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. This word soul here can sometimes mean life. He restores my life. As a minister, sometimes you get those phone calls. And they're not always good phone calls. Sometimes it's bad news that a family's gotten. Sometimes it's a sickness, or sometimes there's a crisis that's going on. You get those phone calls and you go and you talk and you encourage the best you can. And sometimes you or they are just feeling so down about what's going on. And you're discouraged a little bit. But God restores our life. He encourages us. He leads us in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He leads us from that place into a good place so that his name can be glorified. Matter of fact, our whole duty supposedly is to fear God and keep his commandments. We're here to glorify God. That's why we're here. And so when we find ourselves in a place where we're down, God lifts us up. He restores our soul and leads us in his paths for righteousness. Jesus said if we'll seek his righteousness, then everything else that we need will be added to us. I love those passages like that encourage us like that. And then we get to that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Well, the valley of the shadow of death doesn't necessarily mean dying. It means that no matter what, so no matter what I face, even if it's to the point of death, it doesn't matter what I face, I'm not going to be afraid for two reasons. Because you're with me, and your rod and staff comfort me. Now, we don't think of the rod sometimes as being a comforting thing. We don't understand what it is really. But the shepherd boy would use the rod to count the sheep at the end of the day to make sure all the sheep were there and that all the sheep were safe. So he'd take his rod and he'd count each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the reason he did is because all sheep pretty much look alike. Now, he probably could tell, hey, you're the one with the one ear that's notched, and you're the one with one ear that's black, and you're the one with the brown around the edge of your nose. He probably knew his sheep better than that, but the rod helped him keep track. You ever try to count the cars as a railroad train went by? You're sitting at the crossing. You got 2 or 3 people in the car, and you're all counting. When you get done, one says there's 106, one says there's 109, one says there's 113. How do you know? All the cars pretty much look alike, and as you start counting, did I count that one twice? Did I count that one at all? And so he would take his rod and he would touch each one. God touches each of us. That's the message here, that God cares individually for you and for me. And so we need to see that as we look at that. And then the staff had that big crook on it. And that way, if we got too close to the water, he could reach down, he could pick us up. If we got too close into a pit or a ditch or something like that, he could reach down, he could pick us up. Not only does he care for us individually, but he cares for us individually. And he watches over us individually. So the rod and the staff give us comfort. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. What he's saying is, everything I do, you bless. You know, we think of a bounteous table when we think of this passage a lot of times, like maybe a Thanksgiving table. Thanksgiving's coming up around here right now, not too many weeks from now. Saw a thing on Facebook this morning, says you can only have 6 people at your house for Thanksgiving because of COVID, but you can have up to 30 people for a funeral. So they're inviting a bunch of friends to come to the funeral for their pet turkey on Thanksgiving Day. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Maybe they can get away with doing it that way, so they'll have plenty of refreshments to be served. So maybe that works for them. I don't know. But the idea here is that God's going to provide everything we need to fight the battles of our day. The table they're talking about here is the table that a warrior would have set out before his tent. He would come out of his tent and he would put on all of his armor. He'd put on his sword. He'd put on his shield. He'd grab his spear, whatever weapons that he had, whatever armament he had, his helmet, his boots, things like that. And they would all be laid out on a table in front of him. And so what he's saying is that God's going to prepare whatever it is we need for our battles. Later, Jesus is going to tell his disciples, when you're brought before magistrates and leaders and you're questioned, don't worry about what to say. It'll be given to you at that time what to say. God's going to take care of what it is that we need when those times come, and we don't have to worry about that ourselves. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Yes, it's going to be great. Yes, it's going to be wonderful. I don't have to worry about life because God is taking care of that. And one of these days, I'm going to climb that mountain. I'm going to walk up there among those clouds where the cotton's high and the corn's are growing and there ain't no fields to plow. May God bless you. May God bless us. And I look forward to being in heaven with God. Don't you?